Was Queen Bilqis really half human and half jinn? This is a question that remains one of the most mysterious secrets in history, even today. A queen whose stories of power and wealth leave you completely stunned. She had a throne so magnificent that anyone who saw it would forget to blink. But how did her biggest secret reach the most powerful king in the world? Amazingly, this secret wasn't uncovered by a human, a jinn, or a clever spy. It was revealed by a tiny bird. That scorching afternoon in Jerusalem, the sun was raining fire from the sky. The heat was so intense it could melt iron. But the scene at the court of Sulaiman alayhi salam was completely different. Millions of birds had joined their wings together to create such a thick canopy that not even a single ray of sunlight could pass through. The view down on the earth was even more breathtaking. On one side there were rows of humans, and on the other stood jinns so terrifying that just looking at them would freeze your blood. Wild beasts and animals all stood with their heads bowed in deep respect. Suddenly, a crack appeared in this canopy of birds. A sharp ray of sunlight shot straight down and fell right on the face of Sulaiman alayhi salam. The king was startled and looked up. There was a hole in that massive flock of birds providing the shade. One bird was missing from its duty, and that bird wasn't just any ordinary bird. It was the Hudhud. Dead silence fell over the entire court instantly. Jinns and humans alike held their breath. Could a bird really disobey the command of such a great king? The majestic and powerful voice of Sulaiman alayhi salam echoed, "What is the matter? Why can I not see the Hudhud? Is he absent?" A strange fear gripped the court. The king made a clear declaration, "If he does not bring a solid reason for his absence, I will slaughter him." Just imagine, a king before whom even the winds seek permission to blow. Where could a tiny bird possibly go after disappearing from there? The court was in absolute silence. Everyone was just thinking that today it was impossible for the Hudhud to survive. The anger and majesty were at their peak. Suddenly, a tiny dot appeared far away in the sky. It was the Hudhud. He descended rapidly and presented himself straight in the court. His tiny heart was beating fast. He was completely out of breath. It was clearly visible that he had returned from a very long and exhausting journey. Everyone thought the king would announce the punishment right away, but the Hudhud stepped forward and said something that stunned the entire court. He addressed the king and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I have brought such news that even you are unaware of. I have brought certain and true news from the city of Saba, in which there is no room for a lie. I know what you do not know." The great humans and powerful jinns present in the court started looking at each other in sheer amazement. This was no ordinary matter. Sulaiman alayhi salam signaled him to tell the whole story. The Hudhud began his astonishing tale. "I went all the way to the region of Saba in Yemen. There, I saw a woman who is ruling over an entire nation all by herself. This queen's name is Bilqis. She has everything that a great and most powerful king should possess. Gold, silver, diamonds, gems. Her wealth is beyond calculation. Her throne is so massive and beautiful that the human mind is left stunned just seeing it." Hearing this, whispers started in the court. A woman and such immense power. This was truly shocking news, but suddenly a deep sorrow and sadness filled the Hudhud's voice. He continued his story. "O Prophet of Allah, despite so much wealth, so much power, and such a massive throne, I saw that the queen and her entire nation are leaving Allah and bowing down before the sun. They prostrate to the sun." The Hudhud explained, "Satan has made their evil deeds look so beautiful in their minds that they think they are on the completely right path. They do not believe in the Lord who created this entire universe. Instead, they worship a lifeless sun." This was huge news. a new country, a powerful queen, a new throne, and the darkness of shirk. The story was complete. Now, everyone's eyes were fixed on Sulaiman alayhi salam to see if he would instantly believe a bird's news. Sulaiman alayhi salam announced his decision. "We will soon get to the bottom of this. We will see if you are telling the truth, or if you are also one of the liars." After listening to the Hudhud's entire story with great patience, Sulaiman alayhi salam asked for a piece of paper. No long speech was written on this paper, no threatening or terrifying message, just a few incredibly powerful and brief words. This was not merely a piece of paper, it was a massive challenge, a clear invitation. The letter was sealed, and the Hudhud was given a direct order. "Take this letter of mine and drop it right to them. Then step back a little, hide, and listen closely to what they decide among themselves." The Hudhud grabbed the letter in his beak and took off for a long flight towards Saba once again. On the other side, what was happening in Saba? Queen Bilqis was sitting on her magnificent throne in the open courtyard of her palace. The court was in session and state decisions were being made. Suddenly, with great skill, the Hudhud dropped that letter straight into the queen's lap. Seeing the letter drop suddenly, the queen's heart started beating wildly. Out of panic, she immediately opened it. Reading just a few words of the letter blew her mind. It felt as if someone had caused an earthquake in the strong foundations of her entire empire. The queen summoned the most powerful and influential chiefs of her empire to an emergency meeting. Now, this was no ordinary day at the court. At that time, there were 312 extremely dangerous chiefs present in the court. Each one of these chiefs had their own fully armed army of 1,000 warriors. These were warriors who played with blood in the battlefield. Just their names would bring dead silence to enemy camps. The queen, in deep worry and with a heavy voice, looked at her chiefs and said, "O elder and brave chiefs of my army, today a very majestic and honorable letter has reached me. This letter is from Sulaiman, and it begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It clearly says to leave pride and rebellion and come to me in submission." Hearing these words, the whole court flared up with anger. The egos of these bloodthirsty chiefs took a massive hit. Anger took over their faces. They placed their hands on the hilts of their swords. One chief stepped forward, looked at the queen with pure pride and arrogance and said, "Long live the queen! We are not a weak or small nation. We are people of great strength. We are brave warriors who fight by looking straight into the eyes of death. Our army has the power to crush any enemy to dust and destroy them completely. Just give the command once and we will destroy Sulaiman's empire. But the final decision is in your hands. We are obedient to you." Anger and passion aside, Queen Bilqis was no ordinary woman. She was an extremely wise and far-sighted ruler. She knew that a decision made in emotions, without thinking, could wipe her entire nation off the face of the earth. Cooling down the passion of the chiefs, she said something very deep and profound. She said, "My loyal heroes, I do not have the slightest doubt about your bravery and strength, but always remember one thing. When a powerful king forcefully enters a city with the intention to conquer it, he completely ruins and destroys it. He completely humiliates and disgraces the honorable and noble people there. And I do not want to throw my nation into the fire of this destruction under any circumstances." Dead silence fell over the court once again. The queen took a deep breath and, playing her brilliant political move, said, "Before starting a war, I want to find out their reality. We will do one thing. I will send some incredibly rare and precious gifts to them, the likes of which cannot be found anywhere in the entire world. If Sulaiman is really just a worldly king, he will be happy to see these diamonds, gems and wealth, and will drop the idea of attacking us. But if he is truly a true prophet, he will reject our worldly things with pure contempt." Queen Bilqis's master plan had begun. She immediately summoned the most skilled and brilliant craftsmen of her empire. Working day and night, these craftsmen created a chest whose sheer shine would blind a person's eyes. This chest was filled with pure gold, incredibly precious diamonds, and rare gems. This was no ordinary gift. It was an attempt to buy a king. But the most special and shocking thing in this chest was not gold or silver. It was a pearl. A massive, extremely transparent and completely rare pearl. This pearl was so clear that you could see right through it. But what was its biggest feature? It had no hole in it. It was completely closed. Queen Bilqis called her special messenger close and laid down a condition that seemed absolutely impossible. She said, "Tell Sulaiman that if you are truly a true prophet, then show us by making a hole in this pearl. But the condition is, no iron tool will be used, nor will the heat of a fire be used." A long caravan of camels, loaded with gifts, set off from Saba towards Baitul Muqaddas. The messengers' chests were puffed up with pride and arrogance. They were thinking that seeing their massive and magnificent wealth would leave Sulaiman's eyes wide open in shock. Dusting through the deserts and battling the hot winds, they kept moving forward. But the moment they stepped into the borders of the empire of Sulaiman alayhi salam, their feet froze right there. What did they see? They saw that the army of Sulaiman alayhi salam was not just made up of humans. Terrifying-looking jinns were standing there on high alert. Huge flocks of birds were flying in the sky. The stones laid on the paths looked far more precious than the diamonds they had brought. All their pride, all their ego turned to dust in a single moment. All the wealth they had brought suddenly felt extremely worthless to them compared to just the ordinary paths there. Fearfully, with trembling steps, the messengers entered the court. They presented the queen's precious chest and placed that impossible condition regarding the pearl in front of everyone. The humans and jinns sitting in the court started looking at that pearl with pure astonishment. Sulaiman alayhi salam didn't even lift his eyes to look at that chest full of wealth. A tremendous majesty appeared on his face. He said to the messengers in an extremely thunderous and commanding voice, "Do you people want to help me with wealth and riches? Remember, whatever my Allah has blessed me with is 1,000 times better than what you people have brought. You people can keep rejoicing over your gifts yourselves. I have absolutely no need for them." Now it was time for that impossible test. Everyone's eyes were glued to that pearl. Would Sulaiman alayhi salam be able to pierce a hole in this pearl? A strange silence fell over the court. The king didn't call any powerful jinn. He didn't call any human. Instead, he commanded a tiny worm. Yes, just an ordinary worm. That tiny worm moved forward, entered from one end of the pearl, and in the blink of an eye made its way and came out from the other side. Exactly the way Queen Bilqis had demanded, without iron, without fire. Seeing this scene, the faces of the messengers turned pale. They had absolutely no answer to this spectacular miracle. They understood that this was no worldly king, but truly a true prophet of Allah. Sulaiman alayhi salam stood up from his place. He looked straight into the eyes of the messengers and declared, "Go back to your queen and tell them, I will bring such an army against them that they will not have even the slightest power to fight. If she does not accept the truth, I will throw them out of their city with severe humiliation and disgrace." The messengers were scared to death. Totally humiliated, they immediately fled back towards Saba. Hearing the whole story and the miracle from the mouths of the messengers, Queen Bilqis came to her senses. She realized that this fight was not against some ordinary worldly king, but against a true and chosen prophet of God. She let go of her stubbornness and immediately decided, "We are not going there to fight, but to submit." The queen prepared her caravan and set off towards Jerusalem. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Baitul Muqaddas, another incredibly mysterious and spectacular preparation was going on. Sulaiman alayhi salam had already received the news from Allah that Queen Bilqis was leaving all her pride behind and coming in submission. But a completely different and brilliant plan was forming in the king's mind. The court was in session. There was complete silence all around. Suddenly, Sulaiman alayhi salam asked such a strange and bizarre question that it numbed everyone's minds. "O elders and chiefs of my court, who among you can bring that magnificent throne of Bilqis and place it right before me, before she even arrives here?" That throne was thousands of miles away, in the city of Saba in Yemen. It wasn't just an ordinary chair, but an incredibly heavy and gigantic throne. And the biggest thing, it was secured behind 7 strong locks under extremely tight security. An incredibly powerful and rebellious jinn present in the court, whose name was Ifrit, instantly stood up from his place. He claimed with great pride and arrogance, "I will bring that throne here before your court is even dismissed." But Sulaiman alayhi salam needed even more speed. He said, "Is there anyone else who can present the throne even faster than this?" Asif bin Barkhiya was present in the court. He had the knowledge of the Book of Allah and the power of the Ism-e-Azam. With absolute calmness, respect and certainty, he said, "I will present that throne before you, even before you blink your eye." Just think for a moment, even before a blink of an eye. How is this possible? How much time does it take for a human to blink? Just a fraction of a second. And then what happened? It made even the biggest and most terrifying jinns sweat. The exact moment Sulaiman alayhi salam blinked and opened his eyes again, right there, right in front of him, stood that magnificent and golden throne of Queen Bilqis. That throne was no ordinary piece of furniture. The precious rubies, emeralds and diamonds studded on it were shining in the lights of the court as if thousands of stars had descended to the earth. Seeing its grandeur, brilliance and structure, everyone's minds stopped working. Asif bin Barkhiya, through the power and blessing of the Ism-e-Azam, had folded those parts of the earth, and a distance of thousands of miles was shrunk in the blink of an eye. But the story didn't end here. Sulaiman alayhi salam now ordered to do such an amazing thing with this throne, which put Queen Bilqis's intelligence to a tough test. Sulaiman alayhi salam gave a unique order to his craftsmen. "Change the shape and appearance of this throne a little. We want to see if Bilqis can recognize her own throne, or if she will be deceived." The craftsmen started their work rapidly. The positions of some rare gems were changed, some parts were hidden, and its outward shine was given a new look. This was a severe test of the Queen's intelligence. Finally, Queen Bilqis's caravan reached Baitul Muqaddas. Bilqis, who considered herself a very great and wise ruler, had her eyes left wide open when she entered the empire of Sulaiman alayhi salam. The paths here, the towering buildings here, and the royal system here were far more magnificent and modern than her own city of Saba. All her pride was slowly vanishing into thin air, but she didn't let the panic show on her face. When she entered the court with full majesty, Sulaiman alayhi salam pointed towards this altered throne and asked a shocking question. "Is your throne also like this?" Queen Bilqis's heart started beating fast. She fell into deep confusion. She thought that her throne was locked behind 7 locks in the fort of Saba. How could it reach here so quickly? But when she looked closely, the structure of the throne, its special diamonds, and its design were exactly the same. Displaying her perfect intelligence, she gave a very measured answer. "It is as if it is the very same," meaning it is exactly like my throne. After this first test, Sulaiman alayhi salam took her to that special and mysterious part of his palace, which the jinns had built in a very unique way. It was a massive palace of glass. Its floor was made of such transparent and delicate layers of glass that the water flowing underneath, the fish swimming in it, and the plants looked just like an open lake. The moment Queen Bilqis reached the door of this palace, her footsteps stopped right there. A sudden fear and panic gripped her heart. She saw that there was a deep pool right in front of her, and waves of water were moving. She felt that if she took another step forward, she would fall straight into the water, and her precious royal dress would get soaked. To save her dress from the water, the queen bent down in fear and lifted her clothes up. As soon as she lifted her clothes, her shins were revealed. Seeing the queen's legs, Sulaiman alayhi salam knew that she was a human, not a jinn. Sulaiman alayhi salam had built this glass palace purely to uncover this very secret and to show the queen the path of truth. Sulaiman alayhi salam smiled, immediately stopped her and said, "Bilqis, there is no need to panic. This is not water, it is just a clear floor made of glass." Hearing this sentence, it was as if the ultimate truth dawned upon Queen Bilqis. All her worldly pride, the arrogance of her intellect, and the ego of her empire shattered and broke into pieces in a single moment. She instantly realized that just as she was deceived into thinking this glass floor was water, in the exact same way she had been deceived all along by considering a material creation, the sun, as God. She finally understood that true power belongs only to the Creator. Right there, with a sincere heart, she cried out, "Oh, my Lord, I have deeply wronged my soul by worshipping the sun until now. And now, along with Sulaiman alayhi salam, I submit to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds." After this, the queen's entire nation also left the worship of the sun and returned to the truth. That transparent glass floor made the queen realize in a single moment that human eyes and worldly intellect can be deceived, but the path of Allah never deceives. If you loved this story, be sure to share it with the people you know. And do subscribe to the channel. We will meet again very soon with a new and incredible video. Take great care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum.